Joy Andrews joining us in studio. Glad to have you here. You had quite the journey to get to where we're at now. Kind of tell us why you decided to get into government, I guess, and what led you up to being here today. Boy, that's a dumb question.
No, it's not.
Tell me your whole life, every single little detail. But I'm very interested. Very interested.
Well, thank you. I like how you phrased it, how we got here. It's a recognition of all of us are now stuck with me. It's not just how I got here. Well, I just turned 44.
God bless. You look great.
Sunday. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
No Botox.
Exactly. How perfect.
Thank you. But 40 years, I would say, collected a lot of memories, perspectives. And I think I'm at a risk of talking about myself where I think all of them are interesting to others. So I try to be selective. It's not really natural for me to talk about myself, but unfortunately, the past few weeks, if not months, has been the journey of talking about Joy Andrews. And so I do not want to look like I am all about talking about self. That's how I'm expected. And I have been expected of doing. So I'm happy to talk about anything about myself from 0 to 44. I think most of people that I have worked with, my friends, family, people have been stuck with me, knew all about it. But I'm happy to share any pieces of journey. I know a lot of people in the community. Troy worked with him for a long time. And in fact, when I started with St. Johns County as a budget analyst, Troy was one of the departments I had to learn. And all the creative ways of him running the parks and recreation. That was
the way she says creative.
creative. Yeah, we love creativity. Davey, I think I worked with you too.
Really? Tell me.
Where do we work together? Did you work for any nonprofit, any community organizations?
Absolutely, yeah. Several, actually. I was at Bayview Healthcare, which was the St. Johns County Welfare Federation for a while.
That could be.
And
I worked with them.
Over at Inc. Investing in Kids was the Ed Foundation.
Yeah. I worked with both of those organizations.
Great. I hope
organizations.
I was nice and lovely because, you know.
I remember you, but
now he's nervous.
No, I definitely,
You look edgier.
Okay, good. I should
There you go. There you go.
So, sorry, Pete, back to your story.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so how I got here, how we got here. I guess went back to when I was in China.
Okay.
Oh, you were born in China.
I was born in China, 1979. I'm Scorpio. My only child. So I was the first generation. In fact, it was the first year Chinese government passed the law for only child policy.
Really?
So basically, you have to, if you are older than was born after 1979, you either have to have exceptional reasons why you have to have a second child. In my case, my parents were happy to not have to give any reason. They were done with just one, and they were happy.
One and done.
Yeah, one and done.
They were stuck with me too. So yeah, it was interesting time in China. My grandparents went through a cultural revolution. I learned all about how it messed up the whole family. Both of my parents were family of 4 siblings. So they both went through in their early years of maybe middle school, going to high school, the period of cultural revolution, which was a lot of mandatory reforming for the family, for even my mother, in her teens, when she had to go to farms to reform herself. She had no idea what she was reforming from or to, but she did that. Tell me, Pete, if I went too far.
No, you're great.
That's how it goes when you turn older. You start to become reminiscent about all the things, the Mario game we were talking about earlier.
We were.
About all the early childhood memory. But my grandfather, my mother's father, was the first civil engineer in the city where I came from. So the Cultural Revolution, basically the ones who got screwed up and in trouble were the ones who either you are academias or you have high level of authority. And it's pretty much anti-government and anti-authority type of revolution. And having the ones who are undereducated or didn't really have authority to take power. So in a way, I really didn't understand any of that. I learned all about it from my grandparents, my mother, and my father went to military because of that. So there are two ways. You either go to farms to be reformed or you join military.
Okay.
So they were sort of in their position without really had any choice, you know. So so I grew up, and then things evolved, and mom came back to the city. Dad came back to the city. They met. They had me. I think that entire generation in China valued education so much because they lived without means, resources, even food, and of course education. That was not really something they were afford to have, at least adequate of it. So they both went back to school after they came back to the city. I think they were in their 20s. So my mother started as a physician in an emergency room when she had me. So I was a little baby. During that time, she was a shift worker. She didn't really have stable schedule. My father was a salesperson for a state-owned company. Starting with this company, traveled a ton, with being only child. So I was in boarding school from age 5 to 7.
Really?
He would come pick me up every Sunday. There was no we were lucky, and I know people wanted to have 3 days holiday or 3 days weekends, but we had back then 1 day weekend. So I get to go home on Sunday. So went from there. My mom made sacrifice, went to the state of health, really for the family because we needed a stable schedule. So she was the government worker in our family of 3. I watched how it worked, and I told both of them that I did not like math. I was not going to do anything has anything to do with the finance or math.
I'm right there with you.
Your first job with the county?
Yes, that's my punchline. It's coming.
Where are the jokes, man?
Yeah,
this is what he does.
This
This is what he does.
My timing. And secondly, I said, I don't know what you guys do and how you are doing it and still feel like you're having fun. I'm not going to be a government worker. But that was really, I didn't really understand what they were doing other than the rigidness of the work they do. So there I am. I started with the county doing budget as my first job in St. Johns County and a full-blown government worker.
Wow.
So, it's in your DNA. I don't know, somehow you don't get away from, what's in you.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got here. But the reason I came to the States was there was always a boy involved. He's not my husband, but I finished my college with the LLB, which is in China. You hold a bachelor degree in law, and I specialized in international commerce law.
Wow.
And so I was practicing for a very short period of time in those firms, and as a junior clerk or associate, all you do is really paperwork, translating contracts, and it was not really that exciting. And I got convinced that I should go apply for a grad school in Kansas State.
Oh, wow.
Of all places.
Of all places.
Yes.
Now, going back to, I guess, starting school, that's a tougher thing to do in China, right?
To go to
higher education. Am I wrong, or is that?
It is. So because the parents, when you have parents who had one, higher expectation, and two, pretty much unconditional provision of all resources that you need to go to school, you don't know the alternatives. You don't know if there is a actually alternative way of pursuing a life other than education. But I think back now, gosh, how many people we have now? Back then, 1.3. Don't ask me how many zeros. Billion? Is that B?
Yeah.
Would that be right?
Right.
And there are only so many, I would say, quality higher education institutions. So the competitiveness is fierce and was fierce even more now today because now we have more people. So yes, exam to enter into a quality college was. It was insane. It was insane. You would go to these exam sites that there are 3 days events. Parents were, I still remember parents were waiting outside all day of where they usually go use a site in high school or somewhere, the classroom, and you'll be monitored. Actually, when that happened, I don't even think it was usually it's in summer, very, very hot. They didn't even have air conditioning for all these classrooms.
Oh my
So
gosh.
they, the parents would be outside holding a little bucket of whatever iced water, waiting for you to come out, and then continue to the next session. So you'll do history, you'll do math, you'll do all of these things. So yeah, it's insanity. The traffic, you're looking on a camera, what you saw, it was nothing. Like you was like really fighting to be there 2 hours early to make sure you have a spot waiting outside on the campus for the kids to come out. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds intense.
Yeah.
That's intense. All right. So I'm sorry, cut you off. Coming back to moving to the States, right?
Yes.
Is that where we were at?
Yes.
All right.
We're in Kansas State.
Yeah.
Kansas
We're in
State.
Kansas
There we go.
State with boy I dated at the time. I went to grad school, political science, with a major of public administration. I really didn't know. I mean, we all can say that we know where we're going, where we're going, what we're doing in your early 20s. You
No
really
idea.
don't.
No
I
idea.
I will ace every classes that I know. So that's what I did. So I graduated from Kansas State with a master in public administration. For whatever reason, I picked a specialization in public financing, and that was what I graduated with. 2005, moved to Jacksonville, St. Augustine eventually, and started the job with St. Johns County as a budget analyst. End of 2005, 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you always have dreams and aspirations becoming the county administrator? Or is that something that you've always, that's just something that just randomly like, okay, I'm going to move into that field?
I didn't even have that aspiration 4 months ago.
Wow.
So, I did not have that when I was a kid. In fact, my aspirations were random. I wanted to be a tourist guide where you go see places. And
We know a guy. Okay, good.
But, my parents told me, you're going to always go see the same places over and over again. It's not as exciting as you thought it was going to be.
Right, true.
And I wanted to be a journalist.
Cool.
And I get in a newspaper, and it goes back to the talk of a newspaper. I wanted to be the one who writes that. And I want to write exciting news. And mom said, well, if you want to be on the top of the line, to be a top of the line journalist, you're going to put yourself in a lot of situations that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Back then there was just instability, still today, instability in the world. So that didn't happen. They wanted me to be a teacher where you get summer breaks and winter breaks and raise your kids. So, but I was a natural, really good debater. I joined the debate teams when I was in high school, all through high school and college as well. Wow. So law was natural to me. That I don't know if I actually lost a single debate from what I can remember.
Really? I love this.
I probably would not have survived if I did. I'm naturally very competitive.
Cool.
But I guess maybe that's a product of environment too, because you're one of 1B, so you have to be exceptional. So that's kind of part of me is like that.
Well, one of the skills I think you have the best is you have amazing task analysis skills and listening to everybody. Because you and I have interactions for the last 15, 16 years. But your ability to kind of absorb everything and then sit back and then go, okay, this is what I think. And I mean, I've always appreciated it because we've had some really good back and forth. But when you first got here to St. Johns County, you came out of the classroom and stuff like that, and you run into some of the budgeting issues that like your first job. Was it what you expected? And what was the quickest thing or what was the hardest thing for you to learn when you first started?
I think, and I appreciate the compliment on in terms of the perspectives, and I just touch on a little bit on that, and then that actually translates to my style of work and how I work with other people. Is that when you have had opportunities to interface with so many people, so many backgrounds and different countries, different ages, it develops kind of I don't know if it's a survival skill or it's just a natural skill that one can have at birth, but it is a skill of taking in the perspectives with no judgment and not to, because when you quickly judge them, then you already lose the ground of actually understanding that thoroughly. So having that perspective to me, now I'm 44, I find that to be the most valuable thing to do this job. And I would suspect that is a valuable thing to many, many jobs. You live in a world of very diversified perspectives. And so, especially for my job, that understanding everybody's perspectives thoroughly and truly evaluate all of them and find a good harmony, because it's all about collective good. You can't make everybody happy. You can only prioritize. You can only do these things in a collective way. It's important to have that skill. So back to your question, Troy, about me left school. Well, I worked in fact, there was a short period that I did not intentionally miss out, but that was a period. I moved to Charlotte for about a year after I graduated and worked in their housing finance authority for a little bit, because that was an easy job to enter into with my background. And so I had a little bit of experience working in sort of government setting in this country. So not completely coming cold into St. Johns County. Coming to St. Johns County, I was so blessed with, at the time, Doug Timms, who was our budget director. Such a genius guy. I mean, there is nothing he does not know. If you point at any point on that very thick budget book, that he did not have a thorough answer.
No, and I got to describe Doug, because the audience, our audience is a little bit older. There was a character called Droopy Dog. Okay. It was like Droopy Dog was like the best sheriff and everything, but he never got excited about it. And that was Doug. Yeah. Doug just would walk into a room like really slow, and then you'd say something to him, and then all his brilliance would come out.
Yeah.
So
Doug probably takes the perspective taking to an entire different level. I don't think he made eye contact with me for the entire time I interviewed for the job, for probably about an hour. He was taking notes. He was writing down everything, and that's what he did.
Was that intimidating to be interviewing and somebody's just writing the whole time?
I loved it. I'm like, okay, well, there is an adult actually taking notes of what I'm saying. I must be saying something important here. And Jesse Dunn, Darn Cardenas, Wade, and they were in my interviews, and Ed Slavin was right. I was trained under Doug Timms and Jesse Dunn, and Jesse Dunn cannot be more of a man of integrity. I have to be on record to say that. He did not corrupt me at all. Period. And we are fortunate to have him. There is not a single better budget director you can find in this entire world. I can say that. So anyway, so that was kind of my entrance to St. Johns County. Shortly after that, it was the recession. So that was quite of an interesting journey. To start as a very fresh budget analyst person, my task was to find the cut on the level of service that you have to cut 20%. Where do you take that from? Mostly our personnel expenditures. I remembered building services was one of my departments. You have to come up creative solutions of furloughing people involuntarily. Some of them are early retirement. So that was quite of a brutal process.
No, it was a tough time.
It was brutal, and it's one thing to read it on newspaper. It's the other thing to know that every number that you cut is associated with a individual who has a family. So that was a tough process to learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.